This conference will now be recorded.
Sorry.
That's okay. Jacqueline Troisi with Stavitsky and Associates on behalf of the appellant.
Good afternoon for the appellant Bruce Stavitsky.
Thank you. And starting here to my right, we have
Holly Reese, City Clerk.
Mike Scanlon, City Councilor.
Tim Barrett, City Council. Laurie Smith, City Council.
Andrew Chalmers, City Council.
Elizabeth Fitzgerald, City Councilor.
Laura Benner, BCA.
Lynn Vera, BCA.
Ed Clodfelter, Senior Appraiser for NIMRIC.
Emily Norway, tax assessor for the city.
Sue Allen, Administrator.
well, thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you caught all that. So we have our lister here, we have the appellant here. The procedure is going to be as follows. We're going to hear from we're going to take oaths of both the lister and the appellant to speak truthfully. We as the BCA have already taken our oaths to listen and determine truly to the information that will be here. Then the appellant will present their information, at which point we will ask questions as the Board of Civil Authority, and then we will move to the lister's presentation and ask questions of the lister for their information. I know there'll be tons of questions. I know this is different from a residential property that we often hear in town. In the residential property is very much fair market value of the real estate sale price that we're all familiar with. This is a commercial property, can go either way. We've done these in the past, and sometimes the property value is based on the revenue that the commercial building takes in, as opposed to necessarily the sale price. But the attorneys here will tell us which way they're going with that appraisal, I suspect, Ed or Mr. Ed, you are with the
New England Municipal Resource Center.
you're with the appellant.
With the assessor's office.
Thank you. Okay, so you will help us determine whether this is going by revenue or whether this is going by sale price or some combination of the two. After hearing both parties, the appellant and the lister making their presentation and having questions answered by the BCA, we will then proceed to appoint an inspection team. Our quorum for hearing tax appeals is 3 members, and our inspection team will be 3 members. And we will go out and inspect the property with a report by that inspection team made up of the members of the BCA that will volunteer. And we will then reconvene to hear that inspection report at a future date within the next 30 days. We'll set that date before we're done here today. So we'll source out who is on our inspection team, a minimum of 3. We'll get that report, we'll reconvene. You all will be back here, and then we will make a determination based on that. As far as the determination goes.
Or you guys already fine, okay.
When we're done with the determination on the second hearing, when we get the inspection report, it's not as vital for the appellants to be there, perhaps other than they'll get a copy of the inspection report, but pretty much we accept the report and then we promptly go into deliberative session. So it isn't as exciting on this second hearing because we just take the report and go, we'll get back to you. And then I believe we make our determination and issue a decision in writing in 15 days. So with luck, this should be wrapped up in 45 days. Any questions on the procedure? Okay, no questions here? All right, then we'll take the oaths for the lister and the appellant, please.
I think you have a copy of those.
All right. So if you wouldn't mind, those who will be taking the oath, under the pains and penalties of perjury, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll be speaking, and same with you, Bruce and Jacqueline? Do you, under the pains and penalties of perjury, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go with the appellant, first. So we have information in our packet. And Bruce, Jacqueline, the floor is yours.
All right, I'm so muted. Okay, so the subject property is a Walgreens pharmacy store. The assessed value for the 24 year is $5,328,000. What the CLA is 82.54%, which would be a fair market value of $6,455,052. More specifically, the commercial ratio for South Burlington was 75.83%, which would be a fair market value of $7,026,243. This is about $268 a square foot. This property actually previously was reduced in 2021 when the ratio was at 100%. Initially, it was set at 7 million about, and it was reduced to this current assessed value. So if you look at our analysis on page 2, or page 1 actually of our packet.
What page, Jacqueline?
Page 1, apologies. We were definitely, if you look at the, page 2 and 3 as well, you'll see that the market rent, the market vacancy, the market cap is actually below what we used in the interest of just, trying to come to, something that everyone would be able to agree to, and really taking the value back to that 5.2 or 5.3 number. Something about the store worth noting is that it is 26,000 square feet, but 10,000 of that square footage is actually second floor space that's not used for the retail purposes of the store at all. It's actually, you have to go in a back door, up a staircase. There's no entryway. It couldn't be used for retail purposes. So really the 26,000 square feet at a retail rent is above, because 10,000 of that square footage should not be, using a retail rent. But again, this is kind of all in the interest of trying to come together and agree to something. And on the page 4 and 5 and 6 of our packet is just a kind of a comparable sale for a store that's sold in Massachusetts. This store, it sold at 2.2, which was, and it was a 15,000 square foot property, so it sold about $166 a square foot. And again, we're seeking about $200 per square foot. The fair market value is either using the CLA at $245 a square foot or using the commercial specific ratio for South Burlington at $268 a square foot. And that's basically the overview of our evidence.
Great. Questions?
How many square feet was the comparable?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How many square feet was the comparable in Taunton, Massachusetts?
13,000, close to 14.
And your point was that because 10,000 of the 26,000 is not useful, in effect, the Farrell Street property is 16,000 square feet, comparable to the Taunton one.
Right, exactly.
Hang on a second. I forgot to introduce our parcel number and property location, so I'm going to insert that right now. This is very important for our detail oriented. The parcel ID number is 067000514. The address is 514 Farrell Street in South Burlington for this hearing. And of course, this is on Farrell Street, directly opposite the Shaw's Plaza, if you will, on the corner of Route 7, Shelburne Road, and Farrell Street, where the old Habitat or one of the craft stores used to be. Is that correct?
Correct.
Next to Kegel's gas station.
Kegel's, which no longer exists. Okay, but it used to be a craft store of some sort.
Michael's.
Thank you. Before that, it was.
Ben Franklin and then add that.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got it straight. Other questions for the appellant?
Is this the only comparable that Walgreens has in the past few years?
This is the only comparable, mainly because really we believe it should be an income approach for this type of property. But there, I believe if you looked at the sales used in the town for determining the ratio, they were all also, none of them were at the value. Obviously, it's all different stores, so it's not necessarily kind of in the same group, but that is the only comp presented today.
So again, Jacqueline, you were saying that the Taunton one is based on sale price or the income? I wasn't clear on what you had said. The sound of
That's sales price.
the sales price. Okay. Thank you. Lynn.
What is the second floor, what was the second floor used for here in South Burlington?
Normally it would space like this. It's not even used for office space. The employees are downstairs. It's likely just used for storage and kind of overflow stuff.
Is there an elevator to it?
No, just a staircase, and I'm sorry, I should say that based on our discussions with the store manager, it's just a staircase that obviously I know you guys are going to do the inspection, so that will be confirmed. But from our discussion, the understanding is it's just a staircase. Some of the workers who were there weren't even aware there was a second floor. So that's why it's, like I said, the staircase is behind a locked door. So they weren't even aware it was up there. So my understanding is that there's not an elevator.
Okay, thank you.
Donna. This is Donna Kendall, a newly arrived Board of Civil Authority member.
Sorry. So you said South Burlington's assessment is based on income? If that's the case, what income does Taunton have versus the South Burlington?
I would have to confirm the Taunton income. I might be able to do that quickly. Obviously, this is some of the benefits of being virtual. Looks like, and unfortunately this isn't, well, it should still be accurate, although it's a little outdated. Unfortunately, actually, I don't have the Taunton income. The Taunton, just to explain, the Taunton sales price was more so used just as a comparison as a Walgreens store that had sold recently.
I didn't understand what you had just said. Could you repeat that?
Yep, absolutely. So the Taunton sales price, it was really just to show a Walgreens property that sold recently. It's not necessarily, although I understand the line of questioning about, what was the income and what is the income here, but unfortunately I do not have the income for the Taunton property.
But are you saying that you're not putting that sales forth as a comparable?
No, I'm not. No, I am not saying that. Sorry. I'm just saying that I don't have the actual data for the income for the Taunton property.
All right, but we're sticking in making our determination on the sales price of the fair market value of the building itself. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are we clear on that? So we don't need to worry, do we, about the income, is what you're telling us?
Right.
Okay, fair enough. Easier for us, I would imagine. Questions from the board? Okay, and I'm sorry, we have Donna Kinville and Margaret Sunderland is another member of the BCA who has just arrived as well to help here in this process.
Hello.
But can someone actually walk us through the income method? I don't understand all the lines, which of these lines are actual data. I mean, this is the appellant's data?
Yes, and I'm going to maybe defer to hopefully Ed when we get to the listers work on that. So.
Okay, but this is the appellant's presentation, right?
Yes. Okay, but he'll be able to help us interpret something that isn't really relevant, I think, if we're going to be talking about it for our decision making. We'll see. Okay. Other questions for the appellant before we move on to the lister? Okay. Emily and Ed, you're up.
I didn't expect it to be crowds. So I have 9 copies.
I can make
I'm
some.
not sure how you want to distribute those around, take a look at. I'm basically going to walk through this. Again, I apologize. You probably have a thing here called a copier. I have two more.
How about I'll go make some more.
We'll share.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. No, you can have that. I just need to not write on this one.
And I'm sorry, I don't believe we got a electronic version of this. Is there?
Yep, I can scan it and send it to you. Why don't I go do that right now?
I appreciate that.
Yep.
You want me to wait?
It's gonna take just a second. It'll take 2 minutes, so I guess wait.
I don't have any jokes to tell. And I'm not a very good singer or dancer. So I guess we'll just have
Can
to-
you, perhaps in the process, Ed, can you answer Andrew's question about income-based evaluation?
So basically what you're doing is you're looking at, I'm submitting their pro forma as well. So we do have that in common. So they're showing the 26,340 square feet, and they're using they went to CoStar, which is a company that compiles information about rents and expenses, and cap rates and things like that around the country. And they're a very standard and prominent company. And they're saying that the market rent for a property like this would be $17 a square foot. So that times the basic square footage, you get potential gross income of 447,780. Well, then you need to deal with it's presumed that there's probably going to be some vacancy for most types of properties, especially like apartment buildings or things along those lines. There's no vacancy with this one because they own this property currently. But typically, some vacancy is attributed to properties, vacancy and expenses, lack of things that are available for rent, or expenses and recouping what the rent might be. So vacancy and collection also, they're assigning 5% here. And that gives you an effective gross income. And then you need to pick out some expenses.
Ed,
Yes.
are you referring to their page 3? Are you?
I am, under their page.
Their page 3, thank you. I'm just
So I'm
trying.
gonna submit the same thing.
So,
What order is that?
So that's this
I
page.
have no idea. Which
Looks like
is,
that.
when does this come? In this first?
and when you said the 447,780, what was?
That's potential gross income based upon the rent of
Yep,
$17
keep
a
going.
square foot.
Yep. Yep, I thought it went there.
26,340 square feet.
And that would be a yearly 447,780, almost $500,000.
That's what they would expect to get annually.
Okay. But they're not arguing on this basis, are they?
They are not.
Okay. But they could. Is that correct, Ed?
Say that again?
They could make an argument based on income, with showing income from various other stores, showing income from this store in South Burlington. And
They could,
yeah, but they haven't.
but they haven't.
Thank you.
So then once you take your expenses away, and you get your net operating income, which in this case is 395,473, and then you need to capitalize that income. And they've gone again back to CoStar and saying it's $7, it's 7.5. So you divide the 395,473 by 0.075, as you capitalize that income, and the value comes out to 5.27278 million.
And where do you see that? On the front page, page 1,
Again, back on this report,
on your report?
on their report.
No, they're-
I'm submitting the same
Right,
report.
on page 1, Ed, I'm just trying to keep the pages straight.
Yes, it's they're on their page.
They're 5.2,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So in effect, they've used some form of national clearinghouse, taking income to come up with a fair market value sales price for the building. Is
And
that correct?
just to clarify, even though it is a national resource, it does actually look at the local markets. So this was specific this wasn't just a national number. This was actually specific to the market that South Burlington falls into.
Of that type of property.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So that we're getting on their report a fair market value that does seem to include some sort of income consideration for it, correct?
So it seems.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry we've interrupted your presentation, but we were trying to get a feel for where does the income fit in, or does it fit in? And I hope everybody's clear on that. Is everybody clear? Did that answer your question, Andrew? About income-based valuation?
Sort of. I want to get the rest of this one. I may have more.
Okay, fair enough. So,
Sorry, we're just scanning the document and trying to get it to you. I'm just waiting for it to get into my email.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep.
So while we're waiting for that, my understanding is that their presentation is not based on sales, but this says that it is based on sales. So I'm not quite sure that it is, right?
Yeah, that was my question.
Wait, can we go back to the appellant? What are you claiming is the value and on what basis? Is it this analysis on page 1 that we just went through?
Yes, that's correct.
So you're saying the value is 5,272,000, and our assessor is saying the value is 5,327,000. That's the.
No, so we're saying that the fair market value is 5.2. The fair market value of the property is actually at, depending on which ratio you're applying, either 6.4 or 7 million. And so just to kind of add some background, the assessed value is what you are taxed upon, but then you apply an equalization ratio to that value to determine what the fair market value is. And the South Burlington CLA is 82.54%, which is an average. And that would set the fair market value at 6.4 million, roughly.
Are you claiming the assessed value is like 3.8 something? What number are you saying is the assessed value?
So is right. Okay. So if you take our 5.2 and you apply the ratio, it would put it if you apply the CLA, it would take you to 4.3.
So you're saying the assessed value should be 4.3?
Yes, exactly.
And we're saying the assessed value, or our assessor is saying 5.3. Okay.
Where is the 4.3 million number in your packet?
It's essentially just applying that ratio to the fair market value. And when you do that, it's when you take the 5.2 and you multiply it by the 82.54%, it would take you to the 4.3.
so Jacqueline, we're looking for where in your 6 pages.
It's not really, because what we're talking about is what is the fair market value of the property when you're trying to determine the value. And so it's more so the assessed value calculation is really what you would do to determine if there was a reduction in the savings, but we're arguing on the basis of what the fair market value is for the property.
All right, so I think we'll need to hear from the lister if this 5.328, which is what South Burlington is showing, is the value, and if they're arguing for 5.2 or something lower. So I think we need to get back to the lister to get their version of the value and what the appellant is asking for.
And how the CLA plays into this.
Yes.
I just sent the packets.
Thank you.
All right, so you should be getting the email remotely, Jacqueline and Bruce. Okay. So continue your presentation, please, lister.
So I think we have to tell a story. Okay? What we have to do. So the first sheet I gave you was just a cover sort of a sheet. And on there, it talks about parcel ID and the location, a nice, beautiful picture of the property that's there. In the bottom right, I show the income value that's currently used is $5,328,000. So, and that's the point I'm going to make from this. If you go to the second page, this is a copy off the grand list. So that 5.2 million is what's being used as the valuation. This is not a cost approach, which is what a lot of your properties have been. Some properties have been done in South Burlington and across the state are done that way. So when the South Burlington completed their reappraisal, they primarily focused on using an income approach for a lot of the properties. So then I'm just showing you that really is the 5.3 million. You go to the next page and you have a copy of the sketch. that the company did the appraisal that they provided up to the city. You notice the square footage is different from what they're saying, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but it's a little bit, but not a lot. Well, but it's the base floor, they're using 18,000 and they're saying 15,000. It's not huge. Okay, so but it does show that there is the second floor area, and part of this, there's a carport that people can drive through to pick up medications or things that are coming from the pharmacy. They can do that. That's there as well. So this is the sketch that's used, and then we come to the spreadsheet, nice, beautiful blue and yellow spreadsheet that shows how it was broken out for purposes of valuing the property. So they assessed the 18,000 square foot first main floor area at $25 a square foot for rent of $450,000. And then the upper portion of that, the 10,800 square feet, they did at $8 a square foot. And so, we agree with them that that upper floor doesn't really serve them any purpose, to tell you the truth. It's not really useful, but it is there. So it was their part of the building previously, when they redid the building in about 2009, something along those lines. It was refurbished, if I recall. So they get in this case, we get a total income of $536,400, and this is on the original sheet that was done by the city, a 5% vacancy and collection loss. They used 15% for expenses. They had a cap rate of 8.13, and that came out to be the total value of $5,328,000. So then the next thing that I have is I have a copy of their lease. And this is what was presented. And if I could just jump ahead beyond the lease page to the next page, and what you see is the page that says formal review. So when they came in, originally this property, like they indicated, was assessed at something like 7.5 million, 7.4, somewhere along those lines. And the property was appealed. And they came in.
When was that?
That would have been 2021.
Oh, in the last reassessment.
Yeah, so the very top right, July 7th, 2021.
Yep.
At 1 o'clock. And that's when they had this appeal. This is the result of the reappraisal that was done at that point in time. So we're going back, about 3 years.
Do we have that report that came back from the people that inspected? Did the BCA go there?
I wouldn't have any idea.
I don't think we did. I think they settled.
I don't think there was a BCA.
For the
Oh, you
grievance.
settled before that.
I think this came out of the grievance here.
I understand.
So they had a conversation about the value of this property. And see, it was 7.5 million, and there's a note that at the bottom that says reduce it to 5.4. So they also at that point in time discussed the square footage discrepancies, and it was the first floor was 15,682, and the 10,658 was the upper floor level, and that comes to the 26,340. I'm going to show you where that comes from when I talk about the lease in just a second. So the page we just previously did. But it was a 75-year lease starting from 2009. And I'm going to show you that. And really the total lease value for that was $671,000 a year. And it was going to be retrofit, build to suit, so to speak, for when Walgreens was coming in and taking over this building. And so if you take that 671 gross income, which what the lease rate was, $25 a square foot, which is what was agreed to, by the square footage, it comes out to $25 a square foot. So that was the long-term lease rate of this property for 75 years. Now, then subsequent to that, in 12/23/19, this started in 2009. Walgreens bought out the lease. They paid $10,850,000 for the lease. So that then went away. They bought themselves out.
And what year? What was the year was that?
That was in December 23rd, 2019. And that's also on the very front page here. Information is down towards the bottom, the center. the sales information, the information right there.
What was the rent in the year before the lease was bought out? Because I see here it's a fixed rent plus a variable rent, depending upon sales. Do we know what the actual rent was in the year of sale?
It was actually, at the year, it was $25 a square foot. Then there was some other
There was
things.
no variable rent paid that year?
Well, there might have been.
That's, I'm asking if these folks online know, right, they're representing Walgreens. Do you guys, do you know what the rent was for this store in 2019?
I'm sorry, was that the question here?
Yeah,
Yes.
do you know what the
Can you
rent
repeat
was?
that? Sorry, throughout the term, it says 617.
I didn't hear.
Could you repeat that, please?
617 it would have been, because for the term of the lease, it was throughout that, at that rental rate.
Because he says 75.
No, I understand, but you saying that there was never any variable rent, it was just always a fixed rent? Under the lease, fixed
So
rent, variable rent.
typically Walgreens has these terms in, but that's never actually, there's percentage rent is not applied. They normally don't reach the threshold. So it is likely that there was not I would have to confirm specifically for the 2019, but that's.
Can I explain that? Is it okay if I explain that? So what they had in the lease was, there were these contingencies, and if they didn't meet certain levels of sales, then the rates were gonna be adjusted from that. So as long as that met those contingencies, those variable things we're talking about, then the rent retained at the 600.
Plus, it seems like it can go up.
Well, it could, but I don't know that it did.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. I don't know.
And
That's what they're.
Sorry, apologies. The only, so just typically the way these leases are structured and the terms is that it's very rare, just in general, through all Walgreens leases that we've seen, that they actually hit that threshold. Normally, just the rate is there because the margin, the number that they'd have to hit is so high, and it's kind of intentional in that way.
25 square foot that you're calculating is for the gross area, including the second floor, or just the first floor?
It is.
Both.
It did for both, yeah.
For both, okay.
Yep. It did for both.
So say 617 divided by 26,000 is 25.
It was.
Okay.
Yes. So that was the term of the lease when they took over the building, and a 75-year lease. And then they purchased that lease after 10 years or so, then supposedly then they owned the property, so it wasn't really an issue anymore. But the market rent, that's my point. The market rent was $25 a square foot.
If you could just
That's right.
clarify again, if I can just clarify again what your answer to Andrew's question, that the square footage for both the floors was 25 for the
It
total.
was 26,340.
26,340.
And it was $25 a square foot. Yes.
Because here you have, because I'm just trying to, first floor 25, 8 square foot, second floor.
Yes. So it was not valued that way.
Okay.
It was an effort to somewhat account for the second floor not being really productive.
But you're saying based upon what they actually paid?
Yeah.
You calculate the rent as $25 a square foot
Yes.
for the entire building?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there was an adjustment made in 2021. Can we continue?
Yes.
Thank you.
So the gross rent was $671,000, and the 26,340 was $25.48 a square foot each year, what the rent was. And then I've already gone over the sheet that John Valente had with Bruce at the time of the appeal. And then the next page that I had was what they submitted in their pro forma. They submitted to the city during grievances this year. And they were using what we talked about. They used the CoStar rent per square foot at $17 a square foot. And they had vacancy at 5%. They then had their expenses. The net operating income was $395,473. They said CoStar had a 7.5 cap rate. And so the value was $5,272,978. So that's what they came up with for the value of the property.
And Ed, let me ask you straight up, since the numbers are very close together, but the
Yes.
city's 5.328, is there 5.272 comparable to that 5.328?
I think so.
As far as apples to apples?
I think so, yeah.
Regardless of all the cost
Yeah,
approach,
yeah,
income
yeah.
approach, whatever. So that, okay.
So you're agreeing on.
Except they're trying to say that the 5.72 is the appraised value, not the assessed value. They're trying to say that they're asking for an assessed value of 4.3.
Is that right? Can we confirm that?
Yeah.
It's not gonna make a difference.
Are you claiming the assessed value at 4.3?
So what, just to clarify, that is, yeah, that's what we would be requesting because the fair market value for the town is at 6.4 million, applying the ratio. It's not at the 5.3. That's the assessed value. So even though that's what you're taxed on, the town is, by applying their ratio, they're saying the value of the property, the fair market value at, going to market is actually at 6.4 million.
So again, we're not seeing on your evidence to us where you're requesting 4.3 million. We're
So
seeing
just to
what seems to
clarify,
be, what seems to be comparable to us is you're showing us a 5.272, correct? Which compares to the city's 6.455, correct?
and yes, the 5.2 compares to the city's 6.455. So that's the market value. So at the top, how it says the 24 assessed value is 5.3, but the 24 fair market value is 6.4. It's really comparing the 6.4 to the 5.2. But the idea would be that if you took that same ratio and applied it against our market value conclusion, that's
Yes.
where you would come out with the 4.3 number.
But for
Right.
our purposes,
So-
we're
So
working with, go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What is missing from that pro forma, there should have been two lines. After the fair market value conclusion, which was the 5.3 million number, the next line should have been ratio. And then the next line should have been requested assessment. It's just simple multiplication. You're taking the fair market value conclusion, which was the 5.2 or whatever the number is, multiplying it by the ratio, which is 80% indicating what the assessment is. So that's the 4.3 million number that Jackie is testifying to.
So what we need, Bruce, in order to go apples to apples, and regardless of the ratio, is that we'd like to hear the exact 4.3 number that you're requesting so we can compare it to our property card at a 5.328000 number.
So
Right. So then Jackie, you, for the purpose of the record, would put on the record what our requested assessed value is.
Right, so our requested assessed value would be exactly $4,352,316.
4,000,003.
52316, correct?
Correct.
4352316.
What is the percentage that you're using?
82.54%.
82.54?
82.54 as your CLA ratio, correct?
Correct.
Lynn?
So my question is, if that's your, corrected by Bruce, that list there, if we're adding that times 0.85 ratio, why would you be adding that when the city doesn't do that? Because we're very close if we weren't doing this 0.85. Where are you getting the idea that we should adjust our tax appraisal using that CLA ratio?
So that is what, there's actually specifically, there's a 2023 equalization study results that South Burlington puts out, and they determine that 82.54%, and they apply it to every property. So it is South Burlington's ratio that's being applied, and it is, what they're determining through their packet, that the number that they came to the conclusion of, you would then have to take it by that ratio. So that is what, to the point, actually, the indicated value that they are at is below what South Burlington is claiming is the fair market value.
Okay, but I'd like to move things along if we can.
Chris, I have another question.
Yeah, hang on a second. To be clear, South Burlington has it pegged at 5 point, I keep saying point, but 5,328,000 even. And you're requesting 4 million, I lost the page.
352.
352, 316. So that's what we need as far as apples to apples. And we understand that the common level of appraisal at 82.54% can make it different for different numbers. But we're trying to keep the same number and refer to the same number. So I want to hear the remainder of our listers presentation, and then we're going to do an inspection team. Andrew, do you have a relevant question at this point?
I think so.
Go ahead.
So the first sheet shows that this very property was sold for almost $11 million, which I guess includes the buyout of the lease.
This buyout lease.
So that implies that the lease was a premium, i.e. it was a below market lease. Right? Because the lease was sold for more, I mean, we're saying the property with the lease was 11 million, we're saying the property itself was 5 or 6, so the lease was a below market lease. Significantly below market. I mean, it has to be, right? These are numbers. So the $25 square foot is actually really low. And I don't know what the exact number is over the term of the lease, but that 25 is in my mind on the very low end of probably what the fair market value is based upon these numbers. It's clearly below market lease. So I'd love to know what the fair market value rent was, you know, if we can calculate that, given that this was a below market lease, and plug the actual fair market rent into these formulas.
All I can say is that they were buying, they'd only been 10 years into the 75 years.
But I mean, but it was significantly in the money, right? Because you can see how much they paid to buy it.
Well, I'm not gonna speak for them.
Yeah.
But from the perspective, one perspective is that CoStar says it's $70 a square foot.
Well, but that's not, but we have the actual lease, and we have the actual lease buyout. Right? You can actually calculate the actual rent per square foot based upon looking at the lease and looking at the buyout and knowing the term. That'd be really useful to know what that number is.
Is this information that we could get at the second hearing that we'll schedule, Jacqueline?
So it just determined a copy of the lease. I just want to clarify.
What would you like, Andy?
I would like to know the actual implied rent per square foot, given the terms of the lease and the amount that was paid to buy out the lease, which indicates that lease was below fair market value.
So yeah, we can provide a copy of the lease, but what I will just say that,
If I may, I'm sorry, I don't understand your question about the rent being below market value. You're saying that $25 a square foot is below market value?
Kind of deep, because
Look, we're not going to. I'm sorry. Look, stop. We're not going to get into whether it's below market value. Is there information you need from the lawyers
I'd
here?
like to know the implied rent given the buyout of $11 million.
And how is that?
Understand your question. If you take the annual rent and you divide that by the square footage, that gives you the implied rent per square foot. So I don't follow the question.
So the answer then to the implied, your question, I lost the thread on your question, Andrew, because you've made it very complicated for me trying to follow.
I mean,
What number do you need from them?
It's a number you can calculate, given the term of the lease, the amount paid to buy out the lease, right? You can calculate an implied rent based upon that buyout.
You're talking to them.
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, I could probably do that offline, I'm sure our assistant.
Bruce, do you understand what Andrew wants from you?
No, I couldn't hear the last part. It's a little bit, I guess, echoey. So
I think you should be able to calculate an implied rent. The actual rent is $25 a square foot, plus there was an $11 million amount paid to buy out the rest of the lease, right? Because the lease was obviously a below market lease, otherwise you wouldn't pay $11 million to buy it out. So what was the implied rent based upon that buyout price?
I think you're not looking at that correctly. You're saying something was paid to buy out the lease. There was nothing paid to buy out the lease. Someone paid about $10 million for this property 5 years ago. No lease was bought out. Walgreens continues to pay the rent. So I don't think you're understanding, or your question is something I don't understand, because it doesn't make much sense.
So you're saying that this property exchanged hands at $11 million in 2019?
This property sold for, I don't know where your number is coming from. My understanding is it sold for $10 million and change in 2019. It is a leased fee sale. It's not fee simple. The valuation for tax appeal purposes or tax assessment purposes is a fee simple standard. So some investor decided to, on the basis of Walgreens' 75-year lease, which is definitely atypical in market. Tell me about any leases in your community or any community in Vermont that for retail space is 75 years. I bet you can't come up with one other than a Walgreens. So the rent is built to suit. If you take a look at the lease, there's a provision in the lease that says no broker. Okay, so no broker to me means no market. It was not exposed to the market. I've been doing tax appeals for Walgreens going on 30 years in Vermont, New England, New Jersey, and New York. All right, and for those assessors or boards of listers or boards of authority that do not understand what Walgreens a business model is, it can be a little bit confounding. So I'm here to try to explain that to you. It was not exposed to the market. The rent reflects a recapture of construction costs and then a very healthy profit for the developer when this thing was built. Well, it was actually probably negotiated sometime around 2006, 2005, and the lease itself was entered into in 2009. Again, no broker, investor probably bought it, sight unseen, leased fee. Standard is fee simple. We look at market rent, not contract rent. So I'm sure that if Walgreens was paying $2 a square foot, we came to you and said, hey, we want you to appraise it based on the $2 per square foot, you would say, no way. All right. So we look at market. And one of the sources for establishing market are survey systems like a CoStar. And CoStar indicates for the general market in which South Burlington is located, that for retail properties, market rent is $17 a square foot. And that's what we applied. And we applied it in a very generous way to the entire square footage of this building, the 26,000 square feet. From our discussions, and you'll see it for yourself, I haven't been on the second floor in this building. I admit that. But my understanding is it's not used at all. So we applied a market rent of $17 a square foot to the space because it exists. I would say that that space probably has no value in the market. And so then you're developing a market rent for the first floor, for the footprint. And if it's $17 a square foot, then our value conclusion or a value estimate would be far less than our 5.3 market. Again, that's not what we're saying the assessment should be. We're saying that's what the market should be. And Jackie simply applied the ratio to that market value estimate. That's as simple as that. But I can understand, and hopefully if you have questions, I want to try to explain that to you because I've been doing this work for Walgreens for many, many years, and this issue comes up all the time. And so, you know, I'm here to answer any questions that you have. But in terms of the inquiry about the implied rent, there would be no implied rent. The contract rent is the contract rent. Whatever it says, that's what it is.
Either then the 11 million is the value of this property in 2019, or some portion of it was to buy out the lease. I'm not clear from you how much is which, but either way, either the 25 is too low or the property is worth 11 million in 2019. That's what I see.
Fair enough. Let's continue with this presentation, please. And we can bring it into our inspection report, Andrew, and we can bring it into deliberative session if you want to pursue that.
So we've gone through the pro forma. Then I have just a picture of the plan, which is a little bit different than what the original spec was done. I had not measured the building, so I can't really say otherwise. I'm going to assume that the 23,000 square feet is correct. I'm going to assume that's correct. And so then I went along, I recalculated the income approach using basically the expense information and the cap rate that they put in there, as if I maintained the $25 a square foot. Because I figured that's what the rent was in 2019, that's, I think, what the market rent is. And so that came out.
But you were generous, because you didn't apply 25 for the whole thing.
Andrew, can
I
we
did not.
let him finish?
I decided that I agreed that the upper floor area is not all that valuable, and so I used $5 a square foot for that portion. And I came out with, again, CoStar cap rate of 7.5, I came out with 5.1.26. Is where I came out. The last thing I have is I just have a listing. A listing is not necessarily a sale. It's not necessarily not even a market value. You can ask anything you want. But this is a listing of the CVS over in Colchester, over by Costco. And they're saying, in this case, that the cap rate's 5.75. It's a little bit smaller building, but the active listing for this now is about $5.1 million. Sort of matched what I had, so I felt pretty good about that. And the last thing I will say, and then I'll be quiet, is that I would not apply the CLA in this situation. The CLA is primarily used to adjust the education tax rate. That's how the CLA is applied. Now, can it give you some estimate of value? Potentially you could do that. But it's not really what we do in Vermont. The CLA is applied, again, to determine what the education tax rate is. That's what its implication is. It's to equalize the taxes from town to town. That's why they generate that.
So wouldn't we divide by 82.5?
You would.
Instead of multiplying?
Yes. Determine what the value is.
And hence our confusion. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the CLA is a bit of a red herring.
I would not apply it.
Any other thoughts?
I think I've said enough.
All right, questions for Ed? Okay.
Yeah, one quick question. Why did you decrease the warehouse upstairs from 8 to 5?
I find a great number, but I'm an appraiser.
Okay.
My opinion.
Okay.
All right, our next step would be to schedule an inspection team. We will need at least 3 of our members. Will the appellant need to be present? Would the appellant like to be present?
No, that's fine. And we can arrange it with the store manager to make sure that they're aware and, prep for you guys.
And we'll have access to the second floor. We need to see all corners of the property.
We'll make sure like I said, actually, I know that there's only the store manager has access, but we'll make sure that he's aware that you guys would like to see it.
Yeah, we'll be asking to look at the second floor, that's for sure.
Right.
And is there any time frame if we were to schedule it as early as tomorrow or next week? Are there any days or times that you're aware of? Do you need more time to schedule with your store manager?
If we could, I would, they tend to be there, so hopefully they would be able to do tomorrow, but just because the store manager is not always present, and like I said, from my discussions, only the manager has access to the second floor, and I want to make sure you guys can get up there. So if there's
I
time.
think it'd be too soon to see it tomorrow. It's already 3:00 in the afternoon.
Sure.
So we'll speak to the store manager, find out his or her availability. And I think next week is reasonable. Today's Thursday. So any point next week, do you have dates that you're available or unavailable?
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out right now.
Okay.
Looking for 3 persons to go inspect and write up a report on the Walgreens over on Farrell Street. I'll be more than happy to be there. I can be there any day, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of next week.
What time approximately do you think?
Whatever time works for anybody. I can't do it too late in the day on
I'm
Wednesday.
available those days.
You're available?
Unavailable.
Unavailable, okay.
I could do it at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
8 o'clock in the
Whatever
morning.
time they open up.
Okay. That would be 2 of us. Is there a third that's
what?
willing? 8 o'clock on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of next week?
Can I take my kid to school?
Okay.
Can't do Wednesday, I could do Thursday.
Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning? Does that work for you, Tim?
Thursday at 8.
Okay.
You want a 4th, or are you fine?
I think we're fine with 3. I'll be measuring my laser scope
You have it?
upstairs. No, I don't have one. But I can-
Does anybody have it?
Are they open at 8?
Will they be open at 8 o'clock? Do we know?
birthday.
I have no idea.
I'm sorry?
We have no idea. We'll have to find that out.
All right, so we're going to shoot for 8 o'clock on Thursday, September 19th. Thank you, Lynn.
So that's in the morning or the evening? 8 o'clock?
8 a.m. 8
8
a.m.
a.m. Okay. What we're finding on quite a number of these Walgreens is that the pharmacy departments are closed on Saturdays and Sundays, and their hours are being cut back. So if they're not available at 8 a.m., we'll let you know.
Would we be
It says
available?
8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on their website.
All right, so
And
their
is that the pharmacy? That is the store hours, but that may not be the pharmacy hours, just so you're aware.
The store manager should be able to be there at 8, correct?
Yes, that would be the hope.
All right, the store is open at
But
8.
the
So,
pharmacy area might be out,
right. So
able
maybe,
to access.
We will have to confirm all. What may be on the website may not be reality. So we'll let you know.
very good. So the members of the inspection committee will be myself, Chris Shaw, will be Counselor Tim Barrett, and Donna Kinville, BCA member. Okay,
Great.
so those will be the three, and then we need to set a hearing again to come back and hear that report. I would like to look on the last week of September from the 23rd to the 27th. Holly, do you have any recommendations?
Free.
We only need a quorum of 3.
I know, but I'm just-
Whatever works. Schedule.
Anything other than the Thursday in the evening? Is an afternoon one okay? You want to do Wednesday sometime?
Sure.
The
25th.
Yeah.
I have a appointment out in the morning, so that's fine.
All right, so what time's
You're
good
out.
for you?
I'm trying.
Is 4 o'clock good on Wednesday? Is that,
Wednesday, 25th, I can do the morning.
I'm good for 4.
At 4 p.m., just to clarify.
what day is good for you, Andrew?
We're working on it.
I can do the Tuesday before that.
In the morning or?
24th.
I mean, the morning of Wednesday would be good, like at 10.
Okay. Is Wednesday the 25th, anybody have a problem with 10 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday the 25th?
You,
It'll be close, but I should be able to make it.
Chris, I can. So there's 3.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, it sounds like that will
Can you
work.
make it 9,
Mine's fine.
I can't make it 9.
9:30?
My meeting is done at 9:30.
You what?
I have a meeting till
Okay,
9:30.
So 10 on the 25th?
All right, so we're going to reconvene on Wednesday, September 25th at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Got
to
it.
hear, to hear the inspection report. This is predicated on us being able to get the inspection on Thursday, September 18th. Did I get that date correct? Was it the 18th?
That is the 19th, right?
19th, I'm sorry. So 8 o'clock, Thursday, the 19th, and then Wednesday, 10 o'clock, September 25th for the next hearing. Does that help? Are we good?
That works.
Okay, so what I'll need is to close the hearing for the inspections, and we're going to reconvene on the 25th at 10 o'clock for the purposes of receiving the report, at which point we will then go into deliberative session and issue a written response. Helpful? Okay. So I don't think I had a motion to open the hearing. I had a motion to close the hearing.
Motion
So
to
moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, attorneys.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Have a great day.
On the 25th.
Bye.
Thank you.